How's it
Not.
going? Not
It's
anymore.
going well. How are you doing?
Good. I apologize. I was going to make like some sound. All right. I'm on the road again. The place with the fancy ceiling that you like so much.
I love that ceiling.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Um,
I'd be
and
happy if you could do all your hangouts from that room.
no, just
I
every
hate
day
your
there.
turquoise wall. I
Every
love
day
you.
out
I
there.
hate your turquoise wall.
Oh, I'll just leave it forever just to punish you. No, we have plans. We're repainting. We'll repaint it. Or have something even cooler. It's on my list of to-do items. Okay, so this is the last episode of Astronomy Cast for this season.
And our 350th episode that has a number on it, which means we're like at 375 or something in reality.
Yeah, with all of the question shows that we've done, and then not to mention all the other stuff we've done. Yeah, we've had a lot of episodes. Good
Yeah.
times, but it's not our last episode ever. It's just our last episode for the season. So every summer we try to take off a couple of months and not make shows. And everyone's busy. It's hard to kind of organize all the people. So today is going to be the last episode of Astronomy Cast until the Dragon Con show, which is going to be Labor Day weekend.
And we have a topic?
Yeah, I love it too. Rain was like, I want like all the impossible questions that you guys get asked.
Yeah. What are
Which is
what are the 10 big difficult questions in astronomy right now? And
yeah,
so we're going to have a whole crew of people on with us, and it's just going to be kind of awesome.
yeah, totally. When she suggested the topic, I was like, yes, I love it. So I can't wait. It's gonna be really fun. Yeah, so that's Labor Day weekend. Dragon Con, Atlanta. We'll be there.
I have a full Jedi costume I have not worn
Really?
yet. Yes.
I'm bringing a big chunk of the crew. Bringing Nancy and Elizabeth are coming as well. So
And
yeah,
we're bringing the whole SIUE crew just like we usually do. And so,
it's gonna be a party. So you should all join
yes.
us. And I'm actually a guest this year, which is yeah.
They finally acknowledged your awesomeness.
Well, they finally acknowledged that being a co-host of Astronomy Cast is worth being a guest. As opposed to being a guest of Astronomy Cast like you. Is always a guest. Anyway, I'm not. Now it's all is forgiven. I've been accepted into the in crowd, so it's all right. So yeah, and so then also last episode of the Weekly Space Hangout is going to be tomorrow, and then same deal. We're going to take the summer off because it's just too much cat wrangling. It's already tough. We had to cancel the last two because everybody's been really busy with their summer vacations and all that. So we're going to be doing our next episode of the Virtual Star Party on the 7th. So we're going to be doing them once a month. So once on the 7th, once in August. So that's still going to happen over the summer because it's a little more. It's nice in the summer. So
And
some
and
objects that we want to show.
I'm hoping to take all my spare time, free time. Neither really truly exist. I'm hoping to repurpose my astronomy cast time to spend some more time reading for 365 days of astronomy, so we'll get more and more episodes over there. So it's not like our voices are going away. They're just going into different places because you have your YouTube video series and we want to create all the things.
I know. Yeah, I mean, if people think that we're going to take this time off, they're crazy. We're just going to be trying to catch up on all the other stuff that we've had to put off as we've been working. And I got a new job, which I mentioned last week. So I'll go into that, what I'm doing right now a little more when
once
we do
hit record.
Yeah, once we do the episode. So as always, we're going to take about 30 minutes to record this episode of Astronomy Cast. You can stick around at the end, and we'll answer some questions about space and astronomy.
Very briefly, because
yeah, I know. Yeah, and I got to run too. So, but use the Q&A app. I'm going to say hi to Helga Bjorkhaug and Guido Bibra and Peter W. who are watching right now. Thanks, everyone. Okay, so are you ready-ish?
I am.
Okay, I'm going to be recording on my Zoom today.
I am going to remember to put my computer into mono. It's in mono. Okay. Mono. I'm pressing record.
I have also pressed record, and it is working off the mic input on the gadget, so let's hope this works. Hope it doesn't sound too horrible. I apologize in advance, Preston, because it's, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm on campus, Preston. We adore you, Preston. We're sorry we torture you, Preston.
Guido, no, so you're right. It's on Friday. Sorry, the weekly space hangout is on Friday. Normal time, not tomorrow. I'm just completely
We don't
confused
know
about
when
what
we
days
are.
we
It's okay.
Yeah. Timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly. Okay, here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 350, Spaceship One. Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. My name is Fraser Cain. I'm the publisher of Universe Today, and with me is Dr. Pamela Gay, a professor at Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Fraser?
Good. So this is episode 350, and the last episode we're going to be doing for our summer hiatus. So we'll be recording, we got this episode today, and then we'll be taking 2 months off, and then the next episode you'll hear should be the live episode from DragonCon, which will happen over Labor Day weekend 2014, live in Atlanta. If you're going to be going to DragonCon, we'd love to see you.
We will have booths, we will have stuff and things and t-shirts and lanyards and
Hugs.
science. We shall science you.
High fives, hugs, handshakes. We'll sign things. We'll go for coffee. It'll be fun. So hang out with us. And so then the other thing, which I think is kind of appropriate, I mentioned last week about the new job that I've taken on working for HeroX, and which is a division of spin-off from the X-Prize Foundation. But the goal is to try and make essentially anybody be able to make an X-Prize. And so you should come check it out at herox.com. But specifically, just to sort of demonstrate how this is all going to work, I've created my own challenge, and I'm calling it the Self-Replicating Robot Challenge. And so the way this works is I want to see a robot make another robot, and those two robots make a third robot, and which I don't think has been done. And so the way this works is I want to raise $100,000, and then from everybody. And then we all be like, yes, I want to see this in the world. I want to see robots capable. Now, obviously, the space exploration angle of this is that we want to be able to send probes to Mars and the Moon and have them build more copies of themselves. Imagine if we could send Curiosity to Mars and have it craft another Curiosity. So there's a lot of technology, but if we can figure this out, it would be amazing. So come to herox.com/self-replicating-robot and pledge. Join me, kick in a couple of bucks, and just show that we want to see this thing exist. And then if we can get to 100,000, or then maybe we can start this actual challenge and see if people can make this thing happen. So
it's robots building robots, so the world can be taken over by self-replicating robots.
No, it's very clear. No Grey Goo, no Terminators, no replicators from Stargate SG-1, no Berserkers. It's good, nice, lovable.
Can we have a DRM from Almost Human? Because they're kind of awesome.
I don't know. I haven't seen that. Anyway, so that's the thing.
It got canceled. Fox cancels all the good sci-fi.
Oh, really? So here's the thing. So let's. I guess we should get on with the show now. So, so Spaceship One, which is part of the X-Prize Foundation, is a spacecraft created by Scaled Composites to win the $10 million Ansari X-Prize in 2003. It was the first privately built spacecraft to reach 100 kilometers in altitude twice in 2 weeks, carrying the equivalent of 3 people. It's the prototype of the upcoming SpaceShipTwo, created for Virgin Galactic to carry paying passengers into space. Now, so I didn't know that you didn't pick this topic, when I got a job. So, but this is part of our number series, and I guess this is probably going to be the last one, which is
So I had a moment. I had a moment of, I was originally thinking, well, what are the important numbers? We've had Mercury 7, and then my brain went to STS-51L, which was the Challenger disaster. And I was like, no, we can't end the summer on that. We cannot. Too soon. So in the midst of my, bad idea, I was like, what other spacecraft have awesome numbers and are uplifting? And Spaceship One is kind of as uplifting as a numbered thing coming out of the space program has been recently. So, I went with Spaceship One, and I figured it would give you warm fuzzies since you now work with the X-Prize folks. And life is good.
So let's do some history then. So where did Spaceship One come from?
Well, it largely came out of Burt Rutan's brain. I mean, it wasn't born forth like Athena, popping fully fledged out of his skull. But starting in the 1990s, he started thinking about what would it take for us to start doing commercial spaceflight, and he started pulling together teams. And then with the Ansari X-Prize coming out in the early 2000s, which was originally just the X-Prize. Eventually, the Ansaris came forward and added to the pot, and that's where the name changed to the Ansari X-Prize. But it really was just over a few brief years where Burt Rotund was able to drive the idea forward, largely funded by Paul Allen of the Amazon fortune, and they were able to very quickly go from, how should we build this, to building it, to test flying it in May 2003, to hitting suborbit, passing that 100-kilometer mark for the first time in June 2004, to, oh my gosh, winning the Ansari X-Prize in October of 2004. So once they set their mind to it, it was a matter of a few years, but the ideas were ones that Burt Rotund started playing around with in the mid-90s.
Yeah, I mean, if you've done any research into Burt Rotund and seen Scaled Composites, they have this wonderful history of these amazing aircraft that just go back. A lot of craft-building aircraft designers or just, aircraft enthusiasts have ordered various scaled composite aircraft, and I think they contributed to the one that went around the world on one tank of fuel. So he's got this innovative method of building aircraft that are designed. He's always going for simplicity, always going for safety, and able to sort of crack what were normally very complicated problems with some combination of of his technology. So it's a pretty amazing company.
I love how much the idea for this aircraft changed, spacecraft, aircraft, over the 10 years from starting it in 93 to first flight in 2003. He was originally just planning a more capsule-based spacecraft, the old standby, land and water, no big deal, and then basically got inspired by a shuttlecock of all the crazy things, one of those things that you use while playing badminton. It was like, oh, wait. And from that inspiration was born this origami spacecraft that goes from one layout of the wing structure for launch, a different for re-entry, and yet a third for landing. And
yeah, so let's talk about then sort of the components, because it's actually a fairly complicated way the whole thing works. But but in the end, as you said, it's very cool and simple and gets the job done. So sort of if you went and walked up to SpaceShipOne, what would you be seeing, when it's on the ground still?
Well, currently you can actually walk up and see it in the U.S. Air and Space Museum, which is kind of cool. But the part that's missing from the U.S. Air and Space Museum is White Knight 1. So SpaceShipOne was designed to fly on the underbelly of White Knight 1, which is a giant high-altitude flying aircraft that was designed in a way that it could be used for reconnaissance. It could be used for carrying things to high altitude like it does with SpaceShipOne. It has all of these different applications. But the greatest one of all is once you start getting up to that 45,000 feet, 50,000 feet altitude that it's capable of, you're above more than 85% of the Earth's atmosphere in most cases. Once you're above all that atmosphere, you're dealing with a lot less drag. Gravity is still pretty much of a bear, but the air is the big issue you have to deal with. So White Knight carries up little SpaceShipOne on its underbelly. It hangs there rather like a bomb, which actually got White Knight 1 in trouble when it tried to land in Dulles the first time. And actually wasn't allowed to land there because it looked like it was carrying a bomb.
Wow.
Yeah, they had issues trying to deliver it to the Smithsonian. So White Knight takes off carrying Spaceship One on its underbelly, gets up to somewhere between 45,000 and 50,000 feet, and it drops Spaceship One. And for some period of time that they don't tell you, the pilot on board Spaceship One is adjusting the trim, getting everything happy, and then presses the ignition, and it fires. And at this point, you now have a rocket craft in the spirit of the early suborbital flights that were dropped off of bombers back in the 1950s. Very quickly goes into a straight vertical climb, climbs for several minutes until the rocket's cut off, at which point it's going so fast that it just gets carried the rest of the way up to it's about 100-kilometer altitude. So it's a pretty dramatic day when you're taking off on one of these things. But once you're up there, hits the apex of its journey, and then reconfigures its wings again, flipping them up. So you have the belly of Spaceship One facing the ground. By facing the ground, it's creating the most drag it possibly can, and flips the wings up into the feathered position. It actually takes it about 15 seconds to move everything up, and this is an interesting moment. Once it's feathered, it tries to re-enter at about 65 degrees, and it slows down, and you're pulling about 5 times the force of gravity as you decelerate through the atmosphere like a shuttlecock.
Right, right. And that's really the key, and this is this idea, like, let's look around for some natural resources we can use to assist our flight. In this case, the solution is to use the configuration of the wing, the slowly increasing air resistance, to configure the aircraft to both slow it down and put it into an optimal flight path to be able to then continue out and land.
And I just find it so amazing that they fire the rockets until they're only about 150,000 feet up, but they're going 2,000 miles per hour at that point. So they're able to get a long, nice, quiet glide up to space.
Anyone who's played Kerbal Space Program knows how that works. That you run out of accelerant propulsion, and yet your rocket just keeps going and going and going until it reaches the height of its, until it reaches its apogee, and then the down is bad too. So.
And then it does the badminton birdie from 100 kilometers back down to about 50,000, 60,000 feet again. So you're still far higher than a 747 flies. But once they hit that point, they then changed the spacecraft into a glider. It's actually designated with an FAA call number that is a glider designation. And it glides the rest of the way down. And I think the most amazing thing I learned while reading about this is how fast a turnaround all of this is. It's about 10 to 15 minutes from the point that it hits the I'm going to become a glider again, for it to return all the way back to its landing strip where it took off with White Knight. And Spaceship One will actually typically beat the White Knight back.
Right. Okay, so
kind of insane.
Let's talk a bit about sort of when things happened in leading up to it actually winning the X-Prize.
So it's first carried up, left Mojave Spaceport, was May 20th of 2003. It hit a top speed while being carried of half the speed of sound. It went up about 14 kilometers, flew for about 2 hours, and they just sort of had Spaceship One dangling beneath White Knight. So utterly boring, but still kind of cool. From that, they went on to carry it one more time in July. This time they had an astronaut on board, Mike Melville, who would eventually be the first commercial astronaut, the first man to cross that 100-kilometer barrier. They very quickly, in August of 2003, started doing glide tests. They continued doing glide tests up until December of 2003, at which point they did their first firing of the rockets. They didn't actually go very high. They just climbed to 20 kilometers. They climbed for about 6 kilometers above where they started. This time it was being piloted by Brian Binney, who was the pilot when they eventually won the X-Prize. The third man who got to fly it was Peter Siebold. He unfortunately was not able to ever fly it up above the 100-kilometer mark, so he didn't get the title of commercial astronaut. But they kept testing, kept doing powered testing, kept pushing it a little bit higher, hit 32 kilometers in April of 2004, hit 64 kilometers in May of 2004, and then June 21st, 2004, they almost made it to Mach 3. They made Mach 2.9 and just edged over the 100-kilometer altitude. They actually had to get it confirmed, and they didn't know instantly if they had done it or not. During a 24-minute flight, Mike Melville qualified as the first commercial astronaut ever in the world.
Right, and then the requirements of the X-Prize were that you had to carry the equivalent of 3 people, so the pilot and 2 passengers, and so in this case they just carried weight with Mike Melville, and you had to complete this within 2 weeks?
2 flights in 2 weeks, and you couldn't replace more than 10% of your non-fuel mass. So if you think about race cars, there's certain things you always swap out. You swap out the tires, things like that. That's cool. But the idea was you had to be building a reusable spaceship. And so there's that 10% of your mass cut. So they tested some things some more. Then in September, they went for the record. So on September 29th, 2004, Mike Melville took off, hit 103 kilometers, 102.93 kilometers, and scared every single person who was watching. Because with their feathered design, there are some known points that they call built-in features that cause spins that look rather radical and terrifying. And so there were a whole lot of people watching going, are they going to die? Because it started doing some massive spins. But this is a feature of having the feathered design, and Mike and Burt Rutan both said, no, we knew this was possible. We knew the models showed it could do this. It was fine. We were never out of control. We were just spinning.
Right.
And trying to make the world feel better, Mike Melville actually said things along the lines of, yeah, I actually pulled out my camera to get some pictures out the window, and the spins gave me some great views of the Earth as it rotated by. And everyone else is going, okay, that was a little bit terrifying. Are you sure
you're ready? It was like Felix
ready?
Baumgartner when he did his jump from the balloon, and he was spinning, and you just looked at that and just went, oh, this is not good.
No.
But he was able to pull it out, and you know, in the case of SpaceShipOne, it was just designed to do exactly this, and when it got enough wind, it was able to orient itself exactly the way it was supposed to, and everything was fine.
It was a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. Give the pilot a view of the Earth from upside down.
Yeah, something.
Probably want that, yeah.
And then less than a week later, I mean, they had 2 whole weeks, but less than a week later, on October 4th, they went more than 3 times the speed of sound. They achieved 112 kilometers, and Brian Binney won them the Ansari X-Prize, the $10 million prize that did nothing to cover the cost of the spacecraft, but they got the award and went down in history. And if you think about it, this is something we've never done and we haven't repeated. They launched regular service 2 launches in less than a week of the same spacecraft. They actually had additional launches prepared, but they sort of did a wait. This was historical. This was awesome. Let's just deliver it to all the awesome places and then take it to the Smithsonian. So they then proceeded, and by them I mean Burt Rutan, and the rest of the crew decided, let's take this thing on a tour. So they then went on a road show. July 2005, they went to the Oshkosh Air Show, which, if you're an air flight enthusiast, is kind of the air show. People fly in, drive in from all over the world to see all that's new and awesome and old and put together well in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Mike Melville and crew then flew White Knight with SpaceShipOne down to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and Melville decided to make a moment in history, and Wilbur Wright had given a famous speech called Some Experiments in Flight, and Mike Melville decided to give a talk with the exact same title at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And from there they attempted to deliver it to the Smithsonian, but poor Mike Melville, while trying to land at Dulles, which was where they were supposed to land, apparently the flight controllers took one look at White Knight and went no, and refused to let them land because it looked like they were carrying a bomb underneath White Knight. And I guess if dropped incorrectly, SpaceShipOne would be an extraordinarily expensive bomb. But it turned out that Mike Melville had to do some fast talking to convince a different nearby airport to let them land. And I think that falls as the strangest air traffic control moment I've ever heard of.
That's funny. So now this was the end of the story for SpaceShipOne, but right short after that, Virgin Galactic comes in and gets rolling on sort of the future plans for what SpaceShipOne will eventually become, which is a tourist service to the edge of space.
And this is where we have formed in 2004 was Virgin Galactic, where Richard Branson of Virgin everything, Virgin Mobile, Virgin Air, Virgin this, that, and the other thing, he invested and partnered with Scaled Composites, and they started building SpaceShipTwo, which there's actually 2 of them. There's the VSS Enterprise and the VSS Voyager, and these fly on 2 different White Knight 2 model carrier aircraft, VMS Eve and VMS Spirit, Spirit of Steve Fawcett. Both of them have paintings on the side of them that preclude showing them to small children in some communities I've found. So if you have small children, open the picture and make decisions before you show them the White Knights. But they're already selling tickets, and you can make your own reservation for $250,000 per person, and there's over 700 people who've already put down their deposit to fly to space for $250,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've been waiting for it to happen, and that company still hasn't got. There's been a lot of tests with SpaceShipTwo, and the White Knight 2 is much bigger. I mean, the SpaceShipTwo spacecraft is much bigger too. It's really this really scaled up version of the SpaceShipOne. But in this case, it's got nice, comfortable seating inside, room for lots of people, plenty of barf bags, I'm hoping. And these are going to be some pretty adventurous people who are going to finally do this.
And one of the things that they've run into is in 2014 they changed what type of a fuel they're using. They changed what type of a model they were using in 2012. Burt Rutan retired in 2011, and I'm sure that affected how things were progressing.
Yeah.
So they also had to try and recover from, in 2007 they had an explosion while they were testing one of their engines. But they keep they keep plowing forward. They have worked on constructing Spaceport America down in New Mexico, which is the most amazingly beautiful design for a commercial launch facility I've ever seen. Take
Yeah.
the most stunningly beautiful airport you've ever seen and like turn up the futuristic dial. It's gorgeous.
Better have swooshing doors. That's what I want to see.
I can't speak to the doors.
Right. Yeah, and so I think, it's funny because, like, on the one hand, when that happened, we all felt like this is it. Private space flight is unleashed. We've hit 100 kilometers altitude, but the thing is that 100 kilometers altitude straight up is night and day from actually going all the way into orbit. And so, the kind of technology that's required for a private spacecraft to be able to reach orbit is a whole other level, another order of magnitude here. And so there's not a lot of use to go, apart from some scientific use and tourism, there's not a lot of use to get up to 100 kilometers and then come back down.
And it's really a stretch to call it suborbital when you land at the same place you took off.
Yeah, and so I think that there were, you could see there being some applications in transportation, right? You get into your SpaceShipOne or SpaceShipTwo launch craft in Los Angeles, and then you arrive in New York City an hour later, having gone through this horrifying parabolic arc the whole way. But so I think there are some, I think we're still kind of waiting, and it feels a bit like we're recreating the moon landings, that, the humans landed on the moon, and then, so I really do hope that SpaceShipTwo and Virgin Galactic gets rolling, and that maybe there are some applications of.
Well, and where 700 people have paid $250,000, that's a whole lot of investors going, well, and they do get them together on a regular basis, and they are continuing to make progress. It's just, it's not the 2014 launch goal they originally had.
It turns out spaceflight is hard.
Yes. Surprise, surprise. No one ever guessed.
Surprise, surprise. Spaceflight is hard. Cool. Well, I think that's all I got, Pamela.
Okay. Sounds great.
All right. Well, thanks for everything, and we will see you. We'll see you in a couple of months. Not next week, in a couple of months at DragonCon. All right. Well, thanks, Pamela.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, everybody, stick around. This is way easier for me now. I just press stop.
Okay.
There are dogs.
And I want to give credit. I have these truly awesome disgruntled hamsters behind me that bring me no end of pleasure. And they're from the Earth World webcomic. And if you want to have disgruntled hamsters in your life too, go check out Earth World. It's actually really good.
That's awesome.
It only has one disgruntled hamster in the comic, but
you have two of them.
I have two because they're awesome thugs of hamsters.
So Guido Bibra has dug up from Universe Today, July 21st, 2004, an article written by Fraser Cain. Success for SpaceShipOne. I've been doing this for a long time.
Yes, you have. We're old. We're the old people of new media.
Yeah, isn't that funny? And he wondered if there's any references to an Astronomy Cast episode at that time. Were we
what year?
Doing Astronomy
We started
Cast?
in 2006.
Yeah, so there was no Astronomy Cast.
Yeah, Slacker hadn't even started yet, because that started February of 2005. Podcasting, actually, the technology didn't exist till October of 2004.
Yeah. So it's been a while. Isn't that crazy? Like, we've been podcasts for almost 10 years now, too. And they feel like they're just now starting to really take off with Mike Mara and then
I've been podcasting
Nerdist.
For 10 years.
Yeah. Ray R asks, in addition to commercial flights, pleasure cruises, does SpaceShipOne have any definite plans to work with NASA?
Not so much NASA. They do have plans to periodically launch racks of materials for schools. NASA is working with SpaceX, Blue Origins, and one other one that I can never remember the name of because I'm a horrible person, and they have a really weird logo.
Nikolai Ivanov says that Buzz Aldrin said that Richard Branson invited him on the first flight of his little thing, and he refused. I guess compared to Saturn V, the SpaceShipTwo is little. Also, I think it would be terrifying, which is another reason why you might not want to do it, and dangerous. Sean Kennedy says, I have all summer to catch up on all the podcasts I missed. So, yes, have a good summer, everyone. Yay! You can catch up, Sean. And then we'll fill your device with more podcasts come fall. Peter W. asks, I read an article about the Advanced Technology Large Aperture Space Telescope today. Do you know how the study is progressing? Are you aware of that mission?
Hold on. Say that again?
The ATLAST, the Advanced Technology
Large Aperture. No, that one I don't know.
Telescope. No. I haven't even heard of that. What?
Has it already launched?
No.
Oh, it's a mission concept. So what you're hitting is the problem of spacecraft are dead to me until they're actually almost launched.
Except for the terrestrial planet finder, which is just dead. 5 to 10 times better angular resolution than James Webb, and 2,000 times better than Hubble. So sounds great.
W comes first. Follow W first. And if W first makes it to construction, this will be next. So root for W first, and then we'll start to contemplate this one.
I think it's safe to say that there will probably be bigger aperture, more better. I mean, I think the big lesson that we've really learned with Hubble, and I'm sure we're going to learn with James Webb, is that if you just put a lot of glass up in space, good things happen.
The issue becomes one of how do we afford more and more spacecraft with decreasing numbers of salary dollars?
Oh, are budgets going down?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. No budget.
So the problem is that if you start looking at how much money goes to the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope, to the ALMA radio array, to Curiosity and James Webb Space Telescope, suddenly you've consumed a very significant percentage of NASA's budget, or astronomy's budget, NASA and National Science Foundation both.
Yeah.
Factor in all the rest of the existing missions, and suddenly there's fewer and fewer dollars left to pay for things like humans.
Well, and it always comes to this age-old question about, do you just put a great big generic technology up in space, a great big telescope, or do you create purpose-built missions designed to answer some specific question?
It's the Rocky Kolb-Simon White debate.
Yeah. Do you map out dark energy? Are you searching for variable stars? Are you looking to probe the cosmic microwave background radiation? Or do you just want to put a great big telescope that can do kind of anything?
Well, and this is where you end up with compromised systems like the Large Synoptic Survey Telescope that is designed in a way that it is going to find all the remaining asteroids 1 kilometer and higher that might kill us. But after it's done with that mission, we're going to have a giant telescope.
Which will have value.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a good way to approach it. Have a specific mission, and then at the same time use it for other things. So cool. Okay. Now I know you can't stick around. You're about to fly away.
I am going to a family wedding.
Nice. In my country.
In your country? Well, that's because my husband is one of your comrades in arms.
I know.
We're actually comrades in peace because you're Canadian and awesome that way.
So sorry. Cool. Well, hey, as always, it's been super fun working with you over this season and all the previous seasons. 350 episodes, Pamela. How cool is that? High five.
It's kind of amazing.
It really is. And so thanks to all the fans who've been watching. And one last plug, if you have time, come on over to herox.com/self-replicating-robot and post a comment, give me some ideas. Pledge. No money's changing hands. You just click pledge, and then I just write down.
Robots making robots.
Make robots making robots. And this is how we're gonna make. You're gonna dismantle Mercury and turn it into a Dyson sphere. So, this is how we're going to, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, well, anyway.
Then the Earth wouldn't get sunlight anymore. I have problems with that one.
All the electricity. No, we push it out beyond the Earth, and then we'd have this Dyson sphere we could live on.
Then let's just turn Mars into a Dyson sphere.
Done. Perfect. Okay, well, hey, thanks, everyone. We'll see you all next 2 months.
See you in September.
All right. And DragonCon, if you can come, we'd love to see you.
Costumes.
All right. I can't wait to see your costume. All right. We'll see you later, everyone.